I'm Maya Benson, 34 years old, and I've spent my life being the quiet one. I'm a financial consultant in San Francisco, and while my job gives me stability, it's far from the glitzy life my older sister Sophia has built for herself. Sophia, the darling of our family, is 37, married to a tech mogul, and the epitome of everything I never wanted to be: flashy, ambitious, and always seeking the next big deal. I've always felt like the black sheep, the one who isn't quite glamorous enough or cutthroat enough to fit into their world. They see me as the odd one out, and maybe they're right. But what I've come to realize is that sometimes being different is the only thing that keeps you from getting swept away by the tidal wave of greed and lies that runs through my family. I should have known something was wrong when I overheard a conversation at Sophia's wedding. The laughter at my expense was just the beginning. I had no idea how far the betrayal would go, or that everything I knew about my sister, my family, and even myself was about to crumble. The truth is darker than I ever imagined, and I'm just getting started. The wedding was everything I knew it would be: grand, extravagant, and completely over the top. Sophia's wedding, a show of opulence that only someone like her could pull off. 250 guests, most of them powerful figures in tech and finance, gathered at a luxury ballroom in downtown San Francisco. The space gleamed with gold chandeliers, crystal glasses, and the scent of expensive roses filling the air. My sister stood at the center of it all, radiant, her smile as bright as the diamond necklace that hung from her neck. She'd worked her entire life for this moment, and I was supposed to stand in awe. I could barely keep my eyes open. Sophia was always the perfect one, wasn't she? The one who got everything handed to her. The wealth, the status, the connections. I wasn't like her. I never wanted to be. But standing there on the edge of the dance floor, I couldn't help but feel a pang of something, a gnawing sense of being completely invisible. Her world was filled with power plays and backroom deals, while I lived a life based on integrity and hard work. Maybe that's why I never belonged. Then it happened. The toast. The moment when Sophia raised her glass and decided to humiliate me. "Ladies and gentlemen, here's to family," she said, her voice cutting through the room like a sharpened blade. The crowd cheered, clinking glasses. I tried to force a smile. "This is my sister Maya," she continued, her eyes glinting with malice. "The one who still believes you can get ahead in life by working hard instead of having the right people in your corner." The room erupted in laughter. I froze. The mocking, condescending tone of her words stabbed at me. I felt a deep, burning shame spread through my chest. Everyone was laughing, everyone but me. It wasn't a joke anymore. The snide remark was a calculated jab meant to remind everyone where I stood in their world. I wasn't enough, never had been. The tears I fought back were not just from the sting of Sophia's words, but from the realization that my entire family thought I was nothing more than a stepping stone for their ambitions. "You should have been proud of me." The thought echoed in my head, but it didn't matter. Not anymore. I excused myself from the table and slipped away, needing air. I walked across the ballroom, my heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Everyone was watching me. I could feel their eyes heavy and judgmental. I needed to get out. In the quiet hallway near the bathrooms, I overheard something that stopped me dead in my tracks. Jacob, Sophia's new husband, was speaking to someone on the phone in a voice so low I could barely make out the words. But what I did hear made my heart stop. "No, the deal's already set. We'll have the documents signed tonight," he said. Then, with a quick glance over his shoulder, he added, "Maya's inheritance is as good as ours." The words echoed in my ears like a slap. My mind raced. Maya's inheritance. I leaned back against the cold wall, suddenly sick to my stomach. Was this what this was all about? Were they using me, my name, my inheritance, to make themselves richer, more powerful? I felt like the world was shifting beneath my feet, pulling me into a darkness I couldn't escape. I barely registered that someone was approaching until a hand touched my shoulder. I spun around to see Sophia standing there, her face a mask of feigned concern. "Maya, are you okay?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. You look pale. Come, let's get you back to the party. I didn't say a word as she wrapped her arm around me, but I knew then that everything had changed. Sophia wasn't just my sister anymore. She was a threat. And the moment she mocked me in front of 250 people, she had sealed her fate. The truth was, I wasn't the outsider in this family. I was the target. Later that night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The hotel room was still, except for the muffled sounds of laughter and music that drifted from the ballroom. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept going back to Jacob's words. Maya's inheritance is as good as ours. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together, but I didn't know how deep the rabbit hole went. But one thing was clear. I was going to find out, and I wasn't going to let anyone steal what was rightfully mine. Tomorrow I would confront the truth. And Sophia, she had no idea what was coming. The morning after Sophia's wedding, the guilt was almost suffocating. I couldn't shake the sting of her words from last night. The crowd's laughter still echoed in my ears, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't convince myself that it didn't matter. But then the phone call came. Jacob's deal, the $97 million investment he had worked tirelessly for, the one that was supposed to set his tech company on the map, was ruined. I sat at my desk, staring at the news alert on my phone. The deal had collapsed overnight. Not just because of an unscheduled market shift or a rival corporation swooping in, but because something had gone wrong internally. The buyers had pulled out citing contractual discrepancies, but no one knew the full story. I was no detective, but something didn't sit right. Sophia's face flashed in my mind. Was she involved? My sister, who always seemed so perfect, who stood beside Jacob and smiled as if their empire was unshakable. The same woman who'd mocked me in front of everyone the night before. The same woman who seemed to take pleasure in seeing me smaller than her. It was almost as if she had been playing a part all along. I walked over to my window, the skyline of San Francisco sprawling before me, and for the first time in a long while I felt the weight of a city full of secrets pressing down on me. They were hiding something. I couldn't ignore the feeling in my gut anymore. Jacob had mishandled something. Perhaps his business dealings weren't as clean as they appeared. Or maybe someone had set him up, made him a pawn in a larger game. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew I was getting closer. I called Rafael Cruz, the private investigator I'd hired yesterday. He was efficient, sharp, and most importantly, he knew how to dig deep into financial records. We set up a meeting for later that afternoon at a coffee shop near the waterfront. When I arrived, Raphael was already waiting, sipping his coffee, his eyes scanning the room. He was good at blending in, and I had to admit I felt safer knowing he was on my side. So, he began, leaning forward with a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. What's your take on Jacob? I took a breath. He's a part of it, isn't he? Raphael didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled out his laptop and clicked a few keys. A moment later, he slid the screen toward me. Jacob Carter's business history flashed across the screen. Investments, acquisitions, the companies he'd sold or been involved with. A lot of it was standard fare, but then I saw it. One company, a tech startup, had been involved in multiple shady transactions. But Jacob's name didn't appear on the surface. It was buried under the name of a shell corporation, registered in a country known for its loose financial laws. This doesn't look good, Raphael muttered, pointing at the screen. Is that? I trailed off, but I already knew the answer. Yes, Jacob's company had a stake in this shell company, and those discrepancies in the deal. Raphael clicked again, bringing up a list of recent transactions. They stem from this account. There's a lot of movement here, money laundering and fake sales under the radar, all funneled through offshore accounts. I felt a chill run down my spine. But why would he? Not sure, Raphael interrupted, but that's why we're digging. There's someone in that mix, someone close to him. Maybe closer than you think. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. This was bigger than I thought. If Jacob's deal had been ruined by this, it wasn't just about money, it was about control. And whoever was behind this had manipulated everyone, pulling strings from the shadows. Later that evening, I met with Sophia at a small bar in North Beach, the city's trendy district. She was still glowing from the wedding, her charm as polished as ever. But there was a new tension in her eyes, a crack in the perfect facade. I could see it, even though she tried to hide it. "Maya," she greeted me coolly, setting down her glass of wine. "What brings you here?" "Just thought we could talk. About Jacob." I could feel my pulse quicken. I had to push, but I couldn't just accuse her outright. Sophia stiffened, her fingers tapping the rim of her glass. "I've got nothing to say. What's done is done." "Is it?" I leaned in, keeping my voice steady. "Funny, but I just found something interesting. Something about Jacob's deal. You know, the one that fell through today." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't flinch. "It happens," she said flatly. "Business is unpredictable. Not everything works out. You of all people should know that." "I do," I said. "But I also know when something smells off. And Jacob's deal? It doesn't just smell off, it stinks. You've been keeping something from me, haven't you, Sophia?" She met my gaze, unblinking. For a second, I thought she might cave. Then she smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You really think I'd ruin my husband's career just to what?" "Prove something to you," she scoffed. But the look in her eyes told a different story. She was hiding something, and I was going to find out what. The next day, I got a call from Raphael. The news wasn't good. Jacob's company was tangled in a much darker web than we had anticipated. Raphael had uncovered that the buyers of the deal had backed out because of hidden clauses in the contract. Clauses that Jacob and his team had never disclosed. But the most shocking discovery came when Raphael finally dug into Jacob's finances. There was another player, someone who had been silently pulling strings all along. A name I didn't expect. "Victor Stone," Raphael said over the phone. "The man behind Jacob's company is Victor, not Jacob." I froze. Victor Stone, Jacob's business partner, the one who had always kept to the shadows. The one I had thought was an ally, but was he? "I think you've been played, Maya," Raphael continued, his voice low and urgent. "This isn't just about Jacob. Victor Stone has been manipulating things from the start, using both of them as pawns." The truth hit me like a freight train. Sophia wasn't the only one pulling strings. It was time to play their game, and I wasn't about to lose. I ended the call and looked out the window. The city seemed so far away now, as if I were watching everything from behind a veil. This wasn't just about a failed deal anymore. This was war, and I was going to win. I didn't wait for long. The message was clear. The game had changed. Everything I thought I knew about my family, about Jacob, was crumbling beneath me like sandcastles swept away by the tide. When Raphael called that morning, his voice urgent, the gravity of what I was about to uncover hit me like a freight train. "I found something, Maya," he said. "You need to see this." I met him at the same coffee shop. He wasn't the type to waste time. When I sat down across from him, his laptop was already open, his face hard. "It's worse than I thought," Raphael began, flipping the laptop toward me. He clicked through several files. His hands were steady, his gaze laser-focused. "Jacob's company? It's been under investigation for months. And not for anything small. Money laundering, corporate fraud, shady offshore deals. There's a whole web here, and Jacob is deep in it." I felt my stomach twist. Jacob's name, my brother-in-law, was plastered across the documents. But what startled me more was the name that appeared next. Victor Stone. He wasn't just a passive partner. He was the puppet master, pulling the strings from behind the scenes. "What does this mean?" I asked, my voice a mix of disbelief and fear. "It means," Raphael said, leaning in, "that everything about the deal that just collapsed, was planned. You're looking at corruption at the highest level, Maya. But there's more. This was all leading to something bigger. The tech deal? It wasn't about technology. It was about something far more valuable. I stood up abruptly, my legs shaky. I have to see Sophia, I said, my voice steely. Sophia wasn't at the office, which wasn't surprising. She had disappeared since the wedding, as if she knew what was coming. I headed straight for the downtown penthouse, the place where she and Jacob had lived ever since their marriage, where their empire had been built. The elevator ride felt endless, each floor creaking with tension. By the time the doors opened on the 30th floor, the realization hit me. I had to confront her, not just as my sister, but as the orchestrator of this twisted game. She was sitting on the balcony, her legs draped over the side, staring at the city below. Her expression was unreadable, a stark contrast to the vibrant, perfect woman I had known. "What do you want, Maya?" she asked, not even bothering to turn around. I couldn't look at her the same way. She had become someone I didn't recognize. "I know what you did," I said. Sophia stiffened, her back rigid. "You're mistaken," she replied coldly, but I could hear the lie in her voice. "I know about the deal, the money laundering, the offshore accounts," I continued, stepping closer. "Victor is behind all of it. You and Jacob, he's been using you, hasn't he?" She turned slowly, her eyes narrowing. The coldness in her gaze froze me in place. "You don't know anything. Stay out of it, Maya. You'll never understand." I stepped forward, my anger boiling over. "Don't tell me what I understand. You think you can pull strings behind my back, ruin Jacob, and walk away unscathed? I'm not letting you destroy everything." Sophia's gaze flickered. For the first time, she seemed like a different person, vulnerable, on edge. Her mask was slipping. "You think this is easy," she snapped. "You think I wanted to become this? I didn't have a choice." "What do you mean?" I pressed, the tension between us rising. "Victor isn't just Jacob's partner. He's my past, Maya. My dirty secret," she said, her voice shaking now. "He's been controlling me for years. He had something on me, something I couldn't get away from. I thought I could fix it, get everything back on track. But now," she trailed off, looking out the city skyline as if everything she had built was slipping through her fingers. "What did he have on you?" I demanded. I needed to know. Sophia swallowed hard, tears welling in her eyes. "Our father's legacy. He knew about the inheritance, the family trust. He had it all. Proof of our father's connections to illegal deals, the laundering of money through the company. If I didn't help him, he would ruin me, ruin everything we had." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "So you chose him? You chose Victor over your own family." "I did it to protect us," she whispered. "I thought I could control it, use it to build an empire. But the deal with Jacob, it wasn't just money. It was a backdoor entry into the tech world, the leverage we needed to finally get rid of Victor. And now it's all falling apart." I couldn't believe it. Sophia had been playing a dangerous game, one where she was the pawn, too. She thought she could control Victor, but she had underestimated the power of the forces at play. And now it was too late. "This isn't about control, Sophia. It never was," I said quietly. "This is about power. And you handed it to him." Sophia looked away, the weight of her decisions settling over her like a dark cloud. "I never wanted this life for you, Maya. But now we don't have a choice. If you want to stop Victor, we have to act fast. He's already made his move, and it's too late for any of us." Before I could say another word, I felt the heavy presence of someone behind me. I spun around, just in time to see Victor Stone's silhouette appear in the doorway. "So the game's up, huh?" His voice was smooth, cold, and unsettling. "You think you can just expose me and walk away? You're making a mistake." Sophia's face drained of color. "Victor, you need to leave. This isn't what you think." Victor smiled, his eyes glinting with malice. "No, Sophia, it's exactly what I think." He turned to me, his smile widening. "And you, Maya, you're about to become the biggest mistake of your sister's life. I felt a chill run down my spine. This wasn't just about money. It was war, and I was in the crossfire. The moment Victor Stone stepped into the penthouse, everything seemed to change. The air grew heavier, charged with a tension that felt almost suffocating. Sophia's face had already lost its color when she saw him, but it wasn't fear. It was resignation. Victor moved toward us, a predator in his element. His tailored suit, the gleaming watch, and the way he carried himself like a man who owned the world. It all screamed control. He stopped just short of us, crossing his arms, his gaze locked on mine. "I think we need to have a conversation, Maya," Victor said, his voice smooth, yet tinged with something darker. I stood my ground, not willing to let him intimidate me. "I'm done being your pawn," I shot back. Sophia flinched at my words, but Victor didn't blink. "Oh, I think you'll find, Maya, that you've been a pawn since the moment you stepped into this game. What do you think this was all about? Do you really think your sister's marriage to Jacob was a fairy tale?" His lips curled into a smile, but there was no warmth in it. "What do you want from me?" I demanded. "I want you to understand something." He took a slow step forward, eyes never leaving mine. "I didn't have to do this. You could have just kept your place. But now—" His gaze shifted to Sophia and then back to me. "Now I'm afraid I'm going to have to take you both down." A chill ran through me. This wasn't just about money. It was never just about money. This was personal. And Victor, he wanted to burn it all down, piece by piece. I could feel the walls of the penthouse closing in on me, the sharp edges of betrayal scraping at my mind. The more I thought about it, the more everything began to fall into place. Jacob wasn't just a pawn, he was a tool for Victor. And Sophia, my sister, had played along, caught in Victor's web. She wasn't the mastermind. She was the victim of manipulation, just like I had been. But that didn't change the fact that she had been the one to pull the strings, getting involved with people like Victor. I needed more information. "I need to speak to Jacob," I said, almost to myself. "Now." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Jacob? Oh, you mean the business partner who has just as much blood on his hands as I do? Fine. I'll let you talk to him, but you should know something first." He leaned in, his voice dropping lower. "You think you can fix this? That somehow you'll be the one to unravel everything I've built? No, Maya. You'll just become a casualty in my endgame." The menace in his words cut through the air like a knife. But there was something in me, a spark, that refused to go out. "No one's going down without a fight," I replied. Victor straightened and smiled, a dark glint in his eye. "We'll see about that." Later that night, I found myself standing outside Jacob's office in the city. The glass windows glowed softly in the evening light. I could see him through the blinds, pacing back and forth. Victor's words still haunted me. "You'll become a casualty." I had to speak to him, get him to tell me the truth. I couldn't do this alone. Taking a deep breath, I knocked. Jacob opened the door, his face tense. The warmth I'd once known in him was gone, replaced with something colder, something I couldn't place. "Maya," he said, his voice low. "What are you doing here?" "I need answers, Jacob," I said, stepping inside. The door clicked shut behind me. "I know about Victor. I know what you've been doing." Jacob stiffened, his jaw clenching. "You have no idea what you're getting into." "I know everything," I shot back. "The money laundering, the offshore accounts, the deals you made with Victor." His eyes widened for just a split second before he masked it. "It's not what you think," he said, but the words were weak. "I'm done with the lies, Jacob," I snapped. "I need to know the truth. Did Victor blackmail you? What's going on with the deal?" He sighed and ran a hand through his hair, looking worn out. "Maya, I didn't want this. I was trying to get out. But Victor, he's too dangerous. He's been blackmailing me with things I can't walk away from. And now everything's a mess." I stared at him, trying to process the words. "What do you mean by mess?" I made a deal with him, he admitted. A big one. We were about to finalize it, the $97 million tech deal, but the buyers backed out. There were some problems with the paperwork. Victor got involved and now... He stopped himself, glancing nervously toward the door. Now what? I pressed. His eyes were frantic. Now Victor's pulling the strings, and there's no turning back. The deal is already dead, but that's just the beginning. He's going to ruin us both, Maya. I took a step forward, my heart pounding. Jacob, we have to stop him. Victor is planning something bigger than this. This is all about control. You have to trust me. Together, we can fix this. Jacob looked at me, torn. His face softened, but the desperation was clear in his eyes. I can't, Maya. It's too late. I felt a surge of frustration, but something shifted in his eyes. Something clicked. There's one way to stop him, Jacob said, his voice trembling. What? I asked, moving closer. He swallowed hard. I've been tracking Victor's movements. He's trying to sell his stake in the company. If we stop him before he does that, if we can buy it out first, we win. I stared at him, the weight of what he was asking hitting me like a ton of bricks. It was too risky, but it was the only chance we had. The plan was set in motion. The stakes had never been higher, and I knew without a doubt that Victor was already watching. Now it was a race against time. Would we be able to stop him, or was the game already over? The phone buzzed, a cold, indifferent reminder that time was running out. Jacob had agreed to the plan, but there was something in his eyes that made me question everything. He seemed distant almost, resigned. The man I knew, the man I had once trusted, was fading before my eyes, replaced by someone dark, someone I didn't recognize. I reached for the phone, dialing Raphael's number. The phone rang once, twice, and then he picked up. Maya. His voice was urgent, clipped. You need to know something. Victor's been moving fast. I've got word that the final transfer for the tech deal is happening tonight. If you want to stop this, if you want to stop him, you need to act now. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of his words crashing over me. Tonight. Where is he? I demanded. He's in the office, the one downtown. But Maya, you're running out of time. He has all the final signatures. If this deal goes through, it's over. He gets everything. Raphael's voice dropped, heavy with something I couldn't place. And so do you. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my coat, the fabric rustling softly in the silence of the room. There was no turning back now. The drive to the office was a blur. The streets seemed to stretch endlessly before me, the city lights casting an eerie glow across my rearview mirror. Every thought was a rapid-fire flash of panic, but I pushed it down. I had to be calm. I had to be smart. When I arrived, I didn't bother with the parking garage. I parked on the street and slipped through the back entrance. The cold metal door was a jarring contrast to the warmth of the city outside, but it matched the tension that knotted in my stomach. Inside, the office was quiet. The hum of a fluorescent light above was the only sound. I moved cautiously down the hall, each step feeling heavier than the last. Victor was here. I knew it. I reached the boardroom door, cracked open just enough to hear muffled voices from the other side. Jacob's voice, low and stressed, was clear. This deal has to go through tonight, Victor. You're right, Victor responded, his voice smooth as glass. And you know what happens if it doesn't. It's not just the deal we're worried about anymore, Jacob. It's everything. I froze. The words hung in the air like a weight, crushing any hope I had left. This was bigger than the tech deal. It was about control. It was about victory. I stepped back, leaning against the cold concrete wall for support. What was Victor playing at? I had no time to think. I had no time for hesitation. I had to stop him. The only way to do that was to confront him directly. I pushed the door open, stepping into the room, my presence cutting through the tension like a knife. Victor and Jacob looked up, their eyes flicking to me. I was wondering when you'd show up, Victor said, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. I was starting to think you were going to let the deal go through. I'm here to stop it, I said, my voice steady, my hands clenched into fists. Victor raised an eyebrow. Oh, and how exactly do you plan on doing that? You can't stop me now. The papers are already signed. The deal is set in motion. You're too late, Maya. I took a step closer. The cool, collected facade I had tried to maintain was crumbling, but I wouldn't let him see it. You've made a mistake, Victor. And what's that? He asked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. You underestimated me. In one fluid motion, I pulled out the USB drive I had been holding onto for days. The evidence was right there. Proof of Victor's illegal dealings, the money laundering, the offshore accounts, everything. The files were time-stamped, irrefutable. Jacob's eyes widened when he saw what I held. His gaze flicked between Victor and me. Where did you get that? Victor's eyes narrowed. The room suddenly felt much smaller, like the walls were closing in. What the hell is that? I took another step forward, holding the drive up between us. This is your undoing. This is the evidence that will destroy you, Victor. Victor's lips tightened. The cocky grin was gone, replaced with a look of pure rage. You don't know what you're doing. You think this changes anything? You think you can control this? It's over, I said. I'll make sure this deal doesn't happen, and I'll make sure everyone knows what you've been doing behind closed doors. It's all coming down. Suddenly, the room grew deathly quiet. Victor didn't move, but I saw the wheels turning in his head. His gaze darted to Jacob, then back to me. His mouth curled into a thin line. I think you've made a very dangerous mistake, Maya, he said slowly, his voice low. But you'll learn, like everyone else, that you don't win by just throwing your weight around. You have to play the game. The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with something ominous. I felt it, the sense that something was about to happen, the calm before the storm. Victor reached into his jacket pocket, and I instinctively took a step back. My heart raced, my mind spinning. What was he going to do? Then, with the flick of his wrist, he pulled out a cell phone and dialed a number. His eyes locked onto mine. You'll regret this, Maya. It's not over yet. The phone rang twice before he spoke again. I need the backup plan. Now. I didn't know what the hell was happening, but I felt the weight of danger in the pit of my stomach. Something was coming. Something bigger than anything I had prepared for. I didn't have long. I turned toward the door, but before I could move, I heard Victor's voice again. It's too late, Maya, he said softly. I'm already steps ahead of you. And then the room went completely still, like the calm before the chaos. The hours after my confrontation with Victor felt like a blur, but there was no mistaking the clarity of what came next. The walls of the office had seemed to close in on me, with Victor's last words echoing in my mind. Too late. His smirk, his cold confidence. It was all an illusion, a thin veil hiding the truth. I had one final card to play, but I wasn't certain it would be enough. The game had never been about the deal. It had always been about power, manipulation, and control. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel as the city lights flashed past. I was running out of time, and the world felt like it was moving too fast, too unpredictably. The only thing I knew for sure was that everything was about to change, one way or another. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. Raphael's name flashed on the screen, and I answered quickly, my voice shaking more than I intended. What's going on? I asked. I don't know how to say this. Raphael's voice was tight, the words coming out slower than normal. But I've been looking into Victor's transactions. The deal is just the beginning. He's been moving money, more than we thought, Maya. There's a web here. It's not just business. It's personal. He's been controlling more than just you. My heart dropped. What do you mean, controlling more? He has ties to people in the city you don't even know. People who could ruin everything if they wanted to. He paused. This isn't just a corporate takeover. It's a power play. If he exposes everything, you and Jacob, your family, will be done. My mind raced. Was there a way to stop this? Could I even beat someone like Victor Stone, who had manipulated every situation, every relationship, every deal to his advantage? We can't let him win, Raphael. I know, he said softly, but you need to be prepared. He's watching you. All the time. Don't trust anyone. I ended the call, the weight of his warning pressing down on me like a stone. I couldn't back down now. Too much was at stake. My mind went back to Jacob, the man I thought I knew, his involvement in everything. He had been trying to protect me, but it wasn't enough. It was never enough. I reached out to him, sending a message, "Meet me at the office. I know everything. We need to stop this now." The minutes stretched into hours, but finally Jacob responded, "I'll be there." It was late when Jacob arrived. He walked into the office, his face drained of color, like a man who had aged years in a matter of days. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice hoarse. "I'm here because you need to tell me everything," I said, my voice colder than I intended. "I know about Victor, the deal, the money." Jacob looked away, rubbing his hands across his face. "Maya, you don't understand. This is bigger than just us. This is Victor's world. We're just pawns in his game." I stood up, fury rising in my chest. "I refuse to be anyone's pawn, Jacob." He took a step toward me, desperation in his eyes. "You can't stop it." I tried, I really did. "But he has connections, power. And if we go against him now, we're finished. We'll lose everything." I shook my head, stepping back. "I'm not giving up. I will fight for this family. For you." The sound of a car screeching to a stop outside caught my attention. Through the window, I saw a shadow moving quickly. I didn't need to look twice to know who it was. Victor. I spun around, my heart hammering in my chest. "Get out. Now." Jacob hesitated, but then moved toward the back door. I couldn't let him leave. Not now, not like this. I grabbed his arm, my voice low but insistent. "We end this together." He looked at me, torn. Then he nodded. "All right, together." We moved quickly, making our way to the back of the building. I could feel the weight of what we were about to do pressing down on me. The tension was palpable. Every step, every breath felt like a countdown. Victor wasn't far behind. I knew he was coming for us, but we had one chance. We had to shut him down before he could take everything. I wasn't going to lose my family, my future, not to him. When we reached the back office, Jacob hit the button to unlock the safe. It clicked open, the sound echoing like a death knell. Inside, we found the documents that would destroy Victor. Everything, the offshore accounts, the false identities, the bribes. I moved to grab them, but my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered, my voice shaky. "Maya." It was Raphael. His voice was strained. "Victor's already on his way to the police. He's playing his last card." A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean?" "He's planted evidence. He's framing you. He's framing Jacob." I froze. "What?" "He's already set everything up. You need to get out of there. Now. You have minutes, Maya." I dropped the phone. My heart pounded in my chest. Victor's move had already been made. He wasn't playing anymore, he was destroying. I turned to Jacob, the panic clear in his eyes now. "We have to go," I said, my voice urgent. "We don't have much time. Victor's made his move." But as we rushed to the door, I heard it, the sound of footsteps coming closer. There was no way out. Victor was in the building. I was trapped with nowhere to run. But there was one thing left to do, one final move to make. In the end, it wasn't the deal, the money, or the power that mattered. It was the choices we made, the lives we lived, and the price we were willing to pay for the truth. And as I looked back at Jacob, I knew this. Sometimes the only way to win is to lose everything you thought you wanted.